Welcome to the discussion of part 3, chapter 2. So when we find Razumihin, he's waking up and having serious regrets about his non-filtered discussions with Dounia and Raskolnikov's mother. And he's kicking himself, thinking, I've totally wrecked my chance with this girl. I'd never make another first impression, what they must think of me. He's kind of like kicking himself and kind of depressed, like, he is checking over. He does like an extra good job of washing up. He gets soap from Nastasia and he's checking over his clothes so that he makes a better second impression. But he feels like it's all lost. What difference does it make anyway? And he meets Zossimov on the way out. And Zossimov is like, yeah, that landlady, you told me I was going to have some great time with her. She barely gave me the time of day. She's locked in her room. She didn't talk to me. She didn't offer me any food, all these things you told me. And he's like, whatever, I'm going to check on Raskolnikov and then, go see my other patients. And he's like, make sure that the mom and the sister don't, get him too riled up. He needs to stay in a calm state and, kind of like, I wish that I would have understood that this murder was kind of a sore point with him after now that I understand that he fainted at the police office and that they questioned him and that he felt like they were, starting to suspect him. And then you and I had that conversation in his room about the painter. And that's what upset him the second time. And he's like, if I would have known that, I never would have had that conversation with you. And he's like, it's understandable under the circumstances. And now in hindsight, understanding better, he's kind of like in this bad state and all these, surprises and him being sick. And it's like all contributing to his state of mind. And Razumihin is like, you kind of said yesterday that you thought maybe he was going crazy. Like, did you really mean that? He's like, no. He's like, now that I understand it better, I understand why he's behaving this way. I don't think that he's going crazy. I just think he needs to not be further agitated. And so Razumihin's like, well, I'm going to take care of the mom and the sister. I'm going over there now. So he goes over there and he's, expecting the worst. He's expecting them to think like he's terrible after last night. And he gets the opposite reception. They just come at him with like hugs and kisses and so grateful and thankful for everything that he's done. And he's like, wow, this isn't what I expected, but they're just so happy and pleased and thanking him for everything that he's done. And the mom is asking a ton of questions. She's like, I haven't seen him in 3 years and I hardly know who he is. Tell me all about him. Like, what is he like? And Razumihin tells them pretty much like what we've seen Raskolnikov to be. He's gloomy, he's moody, he doesn't like people, he doesn't go out of his way to talk to anybody, he doesn't act like he's interested in anything, and that he's kind of got two personalities. Like he will, say one thing and then do another. He sits in his room all day, and that he just is really kind of a grumpy sort of person. And of course, no mom wants to hear this, but she also recounts how he really upset her a while back, about a year ago, when she found out that he was engaged to this landlady's daughter. And they're like, did you know anything about that? Like, she's like, I was really unhappy about it, and he didn't seem to care, like, what I thought about it. And he's like, well, he never told me, but I got to know the landlady, and the landlady told me that she wasn't too happy about it either. And he's like, and on most accounts, like, people I talk to, nobody can even understand, like, how this relationship came about, like, why he would even set out to marry this girl. She was, by all accounts, not attractive, an invalid, really sick, had no money. Like, what was the attraction? It was really just sort of odd. Like, no one understood it. And Dunia's like, well, she must have had some redeeming quality. And so he's like, yeah, maybe. And then they move on to that they're very agitated. Well, the mom is very agitated because Poytr Petrovich has sent a letter. And the letter, she says that they were, he was supposed to meet them when they got into town. He didn't meet them. He sent somebody. And then he was supposed to come and see them at their lodging that morning. But then he sent this letter instead and says, well, I'm not coming to you this morning. I have important business at the Senate, but I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock tonight. But my um, firm request is that I do not see Rodion Romanovich there, because if I see him there, I will leave, because he has been, he's insulted me, and I have no intention of being in the same room with him. And if I do see him there, I'm going to turn around and leave, and then that will be on you. And then he tells the mom, because the letter is written to the mom, that he expects that she is going to have some explanation for communication that she made to her son. Because remember, when Poytr Petrovich went and saw Raskolnikov, he was like, yeah, my mother did write me, because Poytr Petrovich is like, oh, you don't know about me? Like, I thought you would have received a letter. He's like, yeah, I received a letter. And in the letter, my mother says, whatever. And Poytr Petrovich is like, well, that's not how, he says that in the letter, his mother said that, the only reason why Poytr Petrovich wants to marry Dounia is because she's a beggar. And Poytr Petrovich is like, well, that she's like, putting words in my mouth. That isn't how it came out. That isn't what I said. And Raskolnikov's like, yeah, but that's what you mean. So I don't think that the letter or her interpretation is wrong. And so Poytr Petrovich is wanting, a full account from Pulcheria on like exactly what did you say and how did you misrepresent what I said. So he's not being nice in this letter. It feels threatening. It feels like, hey, you want this marriage to go forward, you're going to have to work off of my rules. Like, you're going to need to make things right with me. And so she's very concerned, because of course she, being the mom, she really wants this marriage to go through, because this is what she needs to happen in order to save them financially. And she asks Razumihin, well, what do you think? I wanted to know what your advice would be in this situation. And he is trying to make a little bit of peace about what he said last night, where he totally insulted Poytr Petrovich. And he said, well, I say that whatever Dounia says is the right answer. And he's like, I trust her judgment. And they're like, really? That's not what we expected you to say after everything you said last night. And he's like, well, I got carried away last night. I'm really sorry. It wasn't really my place to say. And I'm sure that she has, a good reason and sound reasoning to like this guy and to agree to marry him. And so I trust her judgment. He's trying to smooth it over from all the stuff that he said yesterday. And the mom doesn't want this answer, because she says that Dounia says that they must meet. She says that Raskolnikov must be there when Poytr Petrovich comes. So Dounia is really taking a stand. Dounia is saying, no, I'm not going to be dictated to and told that I can't have my brother here. I want my brother to be approving of this relationship. He's already told me that he doesn't. And if it's going to get to the point where I'm told that I can't have a relationship with my brother, I want to know that up front. Like, either we smooth this all over and everybody gets on the same page, or, it'll be what it'll be. And I believe at this point she understands that will probably mean the end of this relationship. And then where will they be? We don't know. The other thing that Poytr Petrovich makes a point of saying is that, like, oh, I went to see him and he was so ill. And then 2 hours later, he's out and about and he's at the house of a dead man and giving away all the money to this poor family that you barely could afford yourself. You gave him all this money and he just gave it away to this, he doesn't name it, but he said basically this prostitute. He gave it to this family of a prostitute, a woman of ill repute. And so he's really being accusatory, like, he's almost implying that Raskolnikov was lying about being sick, that he's visiting people who are of poor reputation and also squandering the money that Pulcheria gave him, not knowing the backstory. And they don't know anything about this either. And so he's really trying to put a wedge between Raskolnikov and the family. And so that just shows you like what his, where his motivations are with that. And so they're like just confused and they don't know what to think about it. And so she is very nervous and wanting to go see him. So they head out and they go to see him, and they're on their way up the stairs, and that's where we leave it. But it'll be really interesting to see moving forward what Dounia decides to do, because Dounia was doing this all for the sake of Raskolnikov. And, if like their dreams were that Raskolnikov is going to become Peter Luzhin's protege, that Luzhin's going to pay for him to go to university, that they're going to be partners in his law practice. And, before the marriage, it's to the point where he doesn't even want him in the same room with him. Like, it's, if that's how it's going to go and she's not going to get all of these wins out of the alliance, then she's probably like, well, what am I even in it for? That's the whole reason she's going into this marriage, is to have this ideal ending for her brother. And if the brother's going to be ostracized and it's just going to be her married to this guy, like, that's not worth it to her. She's doing it. It's clear she's doing it for her brother, and not just for the money, but for her brother's future. And so she wants to make sure that that is what's going to be the end game with this. And she's trying to figure out if they can smooth it all over. So I will see you again in part 3, chapter 3, where we will find out what happens next.